Hello dear friends, Mr. E here, and today it's time for another very simplified version of a tier list, this time with the ranged arsenal for Darktide. My thought behind these simple tier lists is that when you're a new player, say like under 50 hours, or maybe you just returned and haven't seen the game state in quite a while, well, you probably don't need or want 2+ hours of Mr. E telling you about every single range weapon and every single mark and every single blessing in the game. You'll come around to it in due time and you'll learn to love that content, but for now, for your purposes, it's best just to keep it simple. So all we need to ask today is this a good weapon to invest my starting resources in, to work with as I'm leveling up and to take into the end game, such that I won't feel underpowered or behind the power curve, right? You want to feel like you're up to snuff. And there's certainly a good number of weapons that do this, but there are also some real stinkers out there that I want to help players to avoid, and then I especially want to help players to avoid ending up in my games with those on. So yeah, that's the goal here. It's a little bit selfish invested. So let's start by describing our little categories. Best to start / main, exactly what it says, pretty much. This is a weapon that you, as soon as you can get it and unlock it, go ahead and grab one and start playing with it so you can level up the mastery, sort of the ranking of it, and then you can just invest your resources once you get a well-rolled one. I'll make a video in a day or so about the way that weapons roll and how to do that. And then, yeah, just run that all the way through. You can run this all the way up through Havoc. I'll make caveats where I need to, talking about certain builds for certain weapons. But yeah, that should be a pretty broad category. There's lots of good weapons here. But there's also a number of weapons that fall in that category just behind it, maybe when you're older. By this I mean, once you've mastered the tough stuff at the absolute top and you have extra resources to spend, hey, this is a good second runner-up pick. There are some good builds that can work with this, but they might require specific setups and they might require some game knowledge that you don't quite have yet. But this is a good one to pick after you've kind of got some experience under your belt. And then finally at the bottom here, these are weapons that are just bunk right now. They are just not going to produce any of the desired results. There are unfortunately some of those that exist in the game, and so I would definitely recommend avoiding these as it currently stands. So yeah, let's with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into things here. Not a whole lot to do, but to rank some weapons. So I am going to do it by classes. Let's first start with weapons that are available on multiple classes. So we are going to start with the heavy las pistol here. And by the way, you might notice this is much less than the totality of range weapons that are available in the game. This is all the ranged families. So there are 2 heavy las pistols, there are 3 recon las guns, etc. So you will just see that represented here as one of the archetypes of one of the weapons, and then later in the line you can change the mark between the different marks if you need to in the crafting menu. It's free, so this is just guiding you as to which one is good to level, which one's good to max out. If you get a good variant, you won't have to level the different marks. Okay, back to the task at hand. Heavy las pistol, absolutely one of the winners in the game. This is available on, I think, everybody save a Hive Scum and Arbites, right? And Ogryn, I suppose. So it's Zealot, Psyker, and Veteran all have this weapon. Very, very, very strong sidearm. Super fast mobility with this weapon. It has incredible damage output. The mark that I would recommend, by the way, if you're interested, is the mark 2, I believe. The 2 is the fast firing one, the one that's pictured here, the sort of gray one. Yeah, definitely slam that on there. Go for headshots, go for crits. This is a godlike weapon on the Veteran who can stack crit and stack headshot damage and get free ammo on shots. Just a really, really solid sidearm on a ton of builds. You'll see it on melee Psykers. You'll see it on Relic Blade with the Zealot, just because it allows you to get some mobility back in your build. It allows you to move with extra sprint speed, and it's just super accurate with a good ammo economy, no recoil, awesome. Following that up, another weapon which appears on those same 3 classes, the Recon Las Gun, also in that top tier for very similar reasons. Very good ammo economy, lots of effective damage, very easy to use, low recoil. You will be hitting your shots, and it also has a great blessing with Infernus that can add a bunch of burn damage. Obviously, with these 2 las weapons, the Veteran has a head start. He gets Shock Trooper at the bottom left of his tree, and that is an insane talent for las weapons. Makes him a god with these things. So yeah, definitely if you're playing Veteran, go for these. But they're good in other classes as well. I'd say the Psyker is the runner-up here, and then the Zealot after that. Next up, we got some more weapons that appear in every class. The Vigilant Autogun. This is a garbage weapon. It has always been a garbage weapon. They buffed it about 6 months or maybe 9 months ago, and it did not rise to any new standard. Do not waste your time. Junk. Then we've got the Shredder Auto Pistol, which appears on, I think this appears on literally every human class, so every non-Ogryn class. This is a maybe when you're older pick. It is a very solid sidearm. I like it a lot. However, what I'd say is that for every class that can use this, there's at least 2, maybe 3 weapons that are better suited for that slot, right? So you could choose something different on those classes. But hey, it does have certain builds that work with it. You know, Hive Scum use it to some effect with range builds. But again, like I was saying, there are weapons that fit that role a little bit better on all classes. It is still pretty good though. We also have the double-barreled shotgun here. So the double-barreled shotgun, I think, is a maybe when you're older pick as well. Double-barreled shotgun struggles for reasons that are pretty well explained by armor existing. Just dinks off of them, but it's a fairly powerful weapon, has good stopping power, instantly kills a lot of medium health targets if you're looking for some weapon swapping and stuff. It's pretty fun too. I think it could use some buffs somewhere in there, but the problem with the weapon is, yeah, armor exists, and it just isn't really serving the purpose of a range weapon, which is to shoot things at distance. So, but it's definitely way better than the waste of time. But just don't start with this weapon. It would be my recommendation. On a little bit higher note than that one, something that is a little bit higher in the tree, but still I would not put it in this absolute top tier, is the combat shotguns. The combat shotguns are very mobile. That's one of the things they have going for them. You can move very fast with them. They have a reasonable ammo economy, and they do some okay damage, but if you're looking for a weapon that allows you to move very quickly and like has that good ammo economy and damage output, the recon las pistol, or the heavy las pistol, is just going to be like de facto just a better choice. But this weapon does appear on some classes that this one doesn't. But again, just like I was saying before with the Shredder here, there are better options that appear on those classes as well. It just kind of finds itself in the middle of the pack. We also have the Braced Autogun here. Braced Autogun is a waste of time and resources right now. It's just junk. Just no damage, no accuracy, and no headshot multipliers. The game is very stacked in favor of weapons that can crit right now. So yeah, if you can't crit, you're kind of shit. And this weapon just needs a lot of love in order to bring it where it needs to be. Same thing with its sort of cousin, the Infantry Autogun. These used to be some of the cream of the crop. Like this one's in specific, the Columnus Mark V used to be called. Now it's called the Vrax Mark V. It used to literally be the best ranged DPS weapon in the game, and how far it has fallen, because yeah, bullet weapons right now are very, very poor. This thing will eat your ammo alive, and you will have pretty much nothing to show for it. You know, you will do almost no damage. So if you're looking for a fast firing weapon that can spew bullets and is efficient in doing so, you want to stick with the Recon las gun. This weapon is really only feasible on the Hive Scum for purposes of, you know, Desperado and infinite ammo spam. But even then, you know, it's kind of not all that great, since Desperado is again not really in the meta anymore since the pickpocket nerf. Okay, then we've got the Revolver. Revolver is a great one. I think that I think I'll put this in the middle tier. I really am really tempted to put it in that top tier, but I want to reserve that top tier for the absolute goats. The Revolver is a very, very solid pick, don't get me wrong. However, I feel like it's still a little bit too ammo inefficient for my taste, and at lower difficulty, the Revolver has far too much firepower. Like, it just overkills enemies, and effectively you could kill way more enemies with the heavy las pistol than you could with the Revolver. The Revolver, every class that it appears on, it does have at least one option that's a little bit better. And one of those options that's a little bit better is the bolt pistol. This is a top tier pick. It's definitely one of the best in the game to level and have leveled. There's a ton of classes that get utility out of this weapon. It just is a very strong, it's kind of like a magazine version of the Revolver. It has very similar stats in that way, but also it has some talents that allow you to apply bleeds on hit, which can be pretty cool. Can stack up some easy damage and get some easy kills. But also it has a blessing on there that increases the blast radius of all your explosions. So if you're playing on a class that has some grenades, like or a rocket launcher, like a certain class does, This will increase the radius of those, and it can be really, really cool. It's got great synergy with the Veteran, it's got great synergy with the Hive Scum, even Arbites, and it's just very solid and pretty dang easy to use with high stagger as well. So this I think is just outclassing the Revolver right now, unfortunately. Then we have the Infantry las gun here. I think this is probably a middle tier pick, not because it isn't like very feasible in what it does, but just because it isn't a absolute powerhouse. This weapon is hyper efficient. You will literally have infinite ammo with it. However, I just think it falls behind the necessity of damage, especially as you climb the ranks these days. And it requires aim as well, which is an unfortunate thing to require for weapons. You kind of want something you just like pull out and hip fire and boom, 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 and knock stuff down and kill it. And this one just requires a little bit too much thinking when a lot of the best weapons right now are very unga-bunga. A good weapon that can be very much unga-bunga is the Spearhead Bolt Gun. This is a top tier pick right here. The Spearhead Bolt Gun appears on a bunch of classes, appears on the Arbites, appears on the Zealot, and appears on the Veteran. As of time of writing, hey, maybe it's going to be on Skitarii or something, but the Spearhead is just a really good high DPS pick. It can be a sniper rifle, or it can be like a boss face destroyer. If you want to go full auto with it. It is a little bit ammo inefficient, but I can't say that it's bad in any way. And I think it's always going to be a weapon that's around in the meta in some sense. So I definitely think it's worth your investment to you know, keep that in your arsenal, get that thing leveled up. I think it's probably the best on the Zealot as a sidearm, but the Veteran makes a good run for it too. Oh, actually, it's a pretty good Arbites as well. Okay, it's good. It's decent to good all around. I get like an 8 out of 10. All right, then we have to get into specific weapons for classes. So we will first start with the Zealot because he has pretty few of them here. The Flamer. The Flamer is the Zealot's best secondary weapon. The problem, if you run the Flamer, is that you won't have any removal for specials and stuff coming in. This is where the Zealot has throwing knives to hopefully compensate. If you suck with throwing knives, well, then get good at dodging trapper nets, because you're not going to be dealing with them with the Flamer, right? The Flamer, however, is one of the most efficient killing machines in the game. One tank of gas can kill crazy amounts of enemies, and Zealots that have almost no like interaction with melee at all, you know, support Zealots and stuff that are hanging back, if they pull out the Flamer for big hordes and, you know, enemy surge waves that are coming in and just let go with this thing, they can put up hundreds of thousands of damage. Like, they can do half as much damage as the rest of the team does just with the Flamer alone. It's really, really, really good, and it's pretty dang efficient. Like, I think that like picking up a couple packs of ammo here and there to feed this thing and have one, it just wipes out like one horde wave every once in a while, and it's awesome. Then we also have the exclusives for the, let's do the Arbites next, because the Arbites has two here. The Arbites has this shotgun, the Executioner shotgun, absolutely awesome, super powerful, just a straight upgrade over the combat shotgun here. Definitely a great one to start with on him. However, my favorite on the class is the shield and shot pistol. The shield and shot pistol is just such a good weapon for the Arbites, because the shot pistol is powerful enough to kill most gunner targets, even at a good distance, right? If you aim down the sights, it can counter fire and knock out stuff. But more importantly, especially if you are running a dog with your Arbites, you can block with this thing. You can block range attacks. So you can put this thing up if you are like advancing on a position, block attacks, and then point the dog to attack the thing that's shooting your shield. He'll go and do it. You stayed safe the whole time. And you never really know when like a shield being able to block some range nonsense that's aiming at you is going to be helpful. Sniper aim at you, pull out the shield for a second, block it, go back to what you're doing. It's amazing. I love this thing, and it really adds a lot of utility to your kit. Then we will do the Ogryn. The Ogryn has a lot of unique weapons here because all of his weapons are unique. They only appear on Ogryn. So we've got quite a few to go over. Not all of them are all that great. And I've got one more here somewhere, right? There it is. Okay. So here are my 6 Ogryn weapons. We've got the Ripper Gun here. The Ripper Gun is probably the poorest of all of these. The Ripper Gun is just very, very ammo inefficient. It is supposed to be an automatic shotgun that it just does not feel like that. It just doesn't feel like it's able to kill effectively. You'll end up wasting far too much ammo, and the recoil gets out of control very, very quickly. When you are trying to stay on one target, it doesn't really have any good damage against any particular target, so I'd say give that one a pass. I would also say give a pass to the kickback at this point, probably. I just don't really see... I mean, the kickback is plenty powerful. I just don't really see what its purpose is in the game anymore. It just kind of has gone by the wayside. Now, this feels bad, but I would also say that for the most part, I would probably put our friend the Twin Link Stubber down here as well. The Twin Link Stubber can be of somewhat use when we're talking a build that uses the point blank barrage skill, but I just think there's better ways to go about using that. And also, I just don't encourage generally newer Ogryns to be going into point blank barrage, because it's, yeah, I mean, it's not exactly like the powerhouse skill of the class. It can do a lot of damage, but like there's plenty of classes that can do damage. The Ogryn is the one that should probably be using the taunt skill because it's kind of broken. Then we have the heavy stubber. I think this is a good choice for the maybe when you're older slot. It could even be a best to start main, but the heavy stubber is just a very solid, predictable, easy to aim weapon. If you want to go for a point blank barrage sort of build, this is a really good one with the fastest variant. You just put that and the fire stacks on there. It's pretty dang good. It'll do a lot of damage, and it's useful outside of that point blank barrage. The problem with the Twin Link Stubber is it's far too ammo hungry. This thing is super ammo efficient. You'll pretty much never run out of ammo. And the best two on the Ogryn are the Rumbler and the Grenade Gauntlet, both explosive weapons. So the Rumbler is a good weapon if you want to cause massive disruption. I use this thing, you know, it's good as a sidearm, even if you aren't going for a build that's intended to just rain grenades on the enemies, because it has a massive blast radius and it can disrupt lots of stuff. So you can make a bunch of space for yourself. If you need to get a res, just shoot one of these at your toes. It'll bounce up in the air and explode after a delay, and then you'll be able to get like pretty much 75% of a resurrect off before anything can get up off the ground. The Rumbler is just super destructive. Point blank barrage with Rumbler does untold amounts of damage. And then the Grenade Gauntlet is the weapon that I think has really just taken the place of pretty much the generalist sidearm on the Ogryn. This is probably the most well-rounded Ogryn sidearm right now. It has a good ammo capacity. It's pretty strong. It's able to kill most like gunners and stuff in one shot, even on higher difficulties, and it causes a good bit of disruption as well. So you can kind of knock enemies around with it, which is good for Ogryn to be able to provide. So yeah, it's just a solid little pick, and also importantly, when you're aiming to shoot with it, it does brace, and bracing weapons is good for Ogryn's regeneration. That's another reason it's up here. So yeah, that's sort of what I would pick for Ogryn. He's kind of not really built around range, but yeah, he's got a couple picks. Now we've also got Psyker. So Psyker is another class that has a bunch of exclusives that are only available on Psyker, of course, and those are the staves. So the magic staves of the Psyker, we have in order of appearance here from left to right, the Void Strike Staff, the Void Blast Staff, the Electrokinetic Staff, and the Purgatus Staff, aka the Flame Staff. So the Void Strike Staff, I'm going to say this is probably the lowest tier staff on here. I would probably not be investing in this to start, just because it requires more or less a fully kitted like setup in order to get it functioning at the bare expected level. You can start at a much higher power level with any of these other staffs, and I think they translate better into the endgame. Speaking of which, the Void Blast Staff, the one that casts a little circle on the ground that explodes, this one is a really good one. I think this is a fine one to start, honestly. The Void Blast Staff is relevant all game. It can be, if you want to learn this staff, it can be something that carries you deep into the end game, all the way to the very literal end of the game. I don't think I've ever been mad to have a Void Blast Staff on the team. You just don't see them enough because of the dominance of one of these other staffs we'll talk about. But yeah, the Void Blast Staff can stagger any enemy, including captains that have their shields down. It is really impactful because it has the AoE explosion, and yeah, it just requires some learning, but hey, the best time to learn is at the start of the game, right? So start learning it, and it is a weapon that will stay relevant. There's no way this weapon will ever not be relevant to the Psyker. Then we have the Electrokinetic Staff. The Electrokinetic Staff, it's a good staff. I'm gonna put it in the second tier here though, because for most players, this is not going to be that relevant. if you understand how the game is works and plays, and you understand the meta behind it, this staff can be godlike. It can do insane DPS, insane damage. I'm in fact leveling, or I'm playing challenge mode with my new account Psyker on stream lately, and they are electrokinetic Psyker, and it does crazy deeps, but it's just not going to be as broadly useful as other staffs for the 99% of players. So I would say that you can check this one out at some point, but dispense yourself of any like notion that you will be using the actual lightning part of it. You're going to be spamming the left click little balls over and over and over again for half an hour, and it's really loud too. It gets very deafening to listen to. But by far the most dominant staff on the Psyker is easily the Brigadist staff. If you just want to broadly be the most powerful Psyker that you can and play with the staffs, it's just going to be the Flamethrower staff here. This thing is incredibly like powerful and broken. It can suppress every ranged enemy that it hits, so if you can get yourself within range to all these ranged enemies, they'll just simply stop what they're doing. It can be used to stagger most enemies with a left-click little puff of flame, and it just, even though it doesn't feel as straight up powerful as some of these other staffs that can like explode enemies with electricity or whatever, the lingering, like adding that flames on tons and tons of dudes, you might not know if you don't have scoreboard to see your actual stats, but you are doing crazy damage. My tip for Psychers who are using the Brigadist staff is use it more. Just always be casting. ABC, right? Always be casting and putting that flame on as many enemies as you can within your reach, and move so you can put more enemies within your reach, and you will just do crazy damage even if you're busy doing other stuff, because the flames tick even when you're not paying attention to it. Then we have some veteran exclusive weapons here. We've got the Hellbore and the Plasma gun. So the Hellbore is a maybe when you're older pick. The Hellbore is a very strong weapon, however, it requires aim. You have to hit headshots with this, and you will need to learn the charging mechanic with it. You'll need to learn that it has like this delayed trigger sort of thing that requires precision. And yeah, it's a much more high skill cap weapon that also has a delayed trigger, the Plasma gun. The Plasma gun here is just disgustingly powerful. They have quote unquote nerfed it recently, but it is not really nerfed really all that much at all. It still has a pretty ridiculous ammo capacity for what it does. It has a crazy amount of damage on body shots, and even more on headshots, but you don't even need to aim for the head on like 90% of enemies. Just blast. This thing also is one of the few weapons that can actually kind of damage like carapace and stuff. So yeah, just blast away with this thing. It has big stagger. Very easy weapon to use and wield. A little bit slow, but you'll get the hang of it in no time. It's not very hard at all. And then finally, we have some Hive Scum weapons here. The best among them, the most generalist among them, being the Needle Pistol. The Needle Pistol is absolutely, if you are not going for a gunner build on the Hive Scum, I would just simply recommend using the Needle Pistol. If you're melee or going into the chem tree with a stim supply kit, then I would 100% just recommend going for Needle Pistol. It just allows you to shoot a couple needles into enemies, and then they're just going to take thousands upon thousands of damage from that burning toxin dot. And you can hear my Bernie losing his mind in the background because his mom just got home. So yeah, this toxin pistol is just crazy good. Go for the Mark II, by the way, because the Mark II variant has the blue mode that enables the exploding enemies that die from it to put poison on the enemies around them as well, which is really good. Then we have two more Hive Scum weapons here. The Hive Scum's secondary choices after the Needle Pistol aren't too amazing. The thing here comes down to, what are you going to do? Are you going to be doing it with the Desperado full blast sort of Daka spray down build, or are you just going to be using it as a simple sidearm? So if you are going into gunner mode with Desperado and that's your focus, these dual Uzis can be very effective. If that is your intention, I will say that. However, if it's not, let's put it down here, right? If you are not going for a Desperado, meaning gunner focus build, put it down here. The dual stub pistols here, I think, are probably in this middle tier. They just lack some of the oomph. They're very generalist. Like, they could serve as serviceable secondaries if you really didn't want to use a needle pistol for some reason and you weren't going for that range build. But for a range build, they're not as good as the Uzis are. and they're definitely not as good as some of the other options. If you wanted a good sidearm to be using with the Hive Scum that's not the needle pistol, because you just for some reason want to buck that trend, I would really recommend like a revolver or a shredder auto pistol. These things are all good fits for the secondary for the Scum. And yeah, that is where we stand right now. So yeah, there's just a few weapons that I just don't think are really up to the stuff in the game. And you notice they're all like bullet style weapons, right? Then you look up here and it's like lasers, magical fat like exploding bullets, super OP shotguns, explosives, magic, plasma, toxin, right? So these weapons all have like fire, right? These weapons all have kind of like special effects and can do all sorts of AoE explosion damage and are largely like irreverent of whether or not you have to shoot for heads. They just kind of allow you to blast. These weapons down here are kind of a mixture of the two. They're a little bit loosey-goosey. And down here, these weapons require far too much precision. They are very much limited to the physical realities of how much damage bullets can do. And for this one, it's just how long it takes to freaking charge this stupid thing. So yeah, that's where we're standing. Recommend highly these things up here if you really don't want to play with any of these, although there's tons of options for everybody given up here. Maybe for the Zealot or something, you could go for like the bolt pistol instead, or the shredder auto pistol. That'd be fine. He's probably the guy who's got the least options up here, but everybody else should be nice and juicy, have plenty to play with. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for watching. Hope this helps you. Let me know in the comments what you want to see next, and I'll get at you next time. Mystery out of here. Bye-bye.